will now be recorded.
Yeah, hello everyone. Very good morning. So for today's session, so yesterday we have seen like how to create the attendance types and how to link it with the time profile and make it available on the employee's front end, which is on the UI, and then we were able to generate the basic timesheet, like creating an object called as a time recording profile. And in this demo, in this configuration side, we're using the positive clock time in order to have complete set of valuations on the timesheet. So we have hired an employee called as in Gordon Ramsay, and the timesheet for this particular employee is a positive timesheet. So today we're going to start with the actual evaluations. Now, why the evaluation is needed is even though we are able to add data or record the times, the system is not able to identify the extra hours that is being uh, recorded on the timesheet. So in order to have that, we're going to start with the next step called as a time valuation. Now, what is a time valuation generally? It's a kind of an object. So, as I said, we normally use a managed data utility to create all these kind of um, configuration or master data. So, time valuations are generally created at the time recording profile. We do not have a separate element to it, but it's a separate object or an attribute within the time recording profile. So, let me open the ones which we have created yesterday. So, if you see, there's no valuation here, and that's the reason you see a simple timesheet here. So now what is a evaluation? So valuation is a kind like you have to provide data or a condition, data as well as condition to the system so that it is processed properly. The raw data is given to the system and it is processed according to the conditions you have defined, and then it gives the output. So whatever the output is there, you can either capture them in the summary section that we have seen for the various timesheets, or you can further, and that output can be further used as an input to other evaluation, and you can process it further either to get a payment out of it, or either you get an compensatory off. So there are two types of outputs. One is whatever the data has been given to the system, that is getting processed properly, and then it comes out, and as an output, what an employee will receive, whether he will receive as an compensation, like monetary terms, like a money value, or he can also redirect it to the time off, where he can use that extra hours which he has worked as a compensatory off, like he can apply a leave for it without any loss of, without any loss of pay. So these are the actual outputs of a time that we are gonna have it into the system. Now let's see what is the first evaluation is. So we can create number of valuation depending upon what a customer's requirement is. So since we are starting with the basic positive timesheet, and this is needed for the positive timesheet, let's say for the scenarios where the employees are not recording the overtime directly. So we have to process the recording, right? So there are two ways to it. So normally what an employee can do is he can record each and everything all times under one single attendance type. One single attendance type, and we do not call them as an overtime. Like for example, let's imagine it's a positive time and we're recording each and every time, and let's say if we have recorded 10 hours in a week, sorry, 10 hours in a day, what the system does is 8 hours is actually your planned working time, and out of which 2 hours is your overtime. Now here in the system we are recording 10 hours directly against each and every time type. Either you can record against one single time type called as an recorded working time, or you can collect it under the training hours or administrative tasks remaining. Because we are not having any drop down called as an overtime. So overtime only comes into picture where this 40 hours are automatically being filled by the timesheet, or only timesheet. Like for example, if you're using a negative timesheet, okay, so in that negative timesheet you will have a drop down called as an overtime, or you can have training hours or administrative task, these kind of drop downs. You don't need to have the recorded working hours manually filled in, because system will take care by automatically submitting those 40 hours. But in that case also you need these kind of valuation, because system has to identify that component or that particular time as a separate overtime, right? So that's the reason why we are creating the time valuation. Now first evaluation and foremost important evaluation is identifying the overtime. Now how do you, let's say I have recorded 10 hours here, okay, system will not able to identify it. Let me do one thing. Let's say I have given a regular working time which is 8 hours. Now assume I wanted to increase it to 2 hours extra. Okay? Now if you see, system is not able to identify these 2 hours as an additional overtime. Now that is the reason why we need to create the time valuation. So the first time valuation will hold this planned time, because when you start giving the input, the results definitely they have to get exactly what we have it here. Like the first valuation will have the planned working time without breaks. So if you look at this, this is a without break one. So if it is with break, it is 9 hours. Without breaks, it's 8 hours. So the first evaluation will have this value. Second evaluation will have this value, which is this. Ideally, it is 11 hours if you look at the recording time, but without breaks, it's 10 hours, right? So, this is the second evaluation we're going to create. Third evaluation is automatically identifying the overtime. What is the overtime here is 10 minus 8 is an overtime. So, that's what we're going to create in the valuations. Now, these valuations, whatever is the output, will serve as an input to the next valuation. And how do we create this? So let's write it theoretically here. So first time valuation, we will need to create planned working time without breaks. And giving technically, if it is 9 minus 1 is equal to 8. Okay. So this is your planned working time, which is deriving from your work schedule. Okay. 9, including your breaks. This one is just a break, which is this one, and the output is this one. Individually this, but overall in a week, you if you see it, it's actually 45 minus 5 is equal to 40, and that's how we're going to create it. So this is the first evaluation. Similarly, the second evaluation will also work in the same way. Here also we will have recorded working time, and it's without breaks. Okay, recorded working time, let's say I'm giving an example of 11 minus 1, which is normally equal to 10. Now here is a normal value. This output generally comes from what it is through these kind of. Now let's say I have recorded only recorded working hours, but instead of this we can also have either a training hours or an administrative task, right? So basically, including everything, my recorded work should be included. So that means you will have an additional concept here, something called as an you're grouping the input time here. So you have to group each and everything. You're saying that recorded working time, whether it is coming from training hours, whether it is coming from administrative task, whether it is coming from your holidays. Let's say holiday is also a paid holiday, right? So that also is an input to the timesheet because that is also recorded as a normal working time. And you will have to have a payment for that specifically. So you have to group all these input types in your recorded working time, and then minus of the extra, the minus of these ones, schedule paid breaks, that is coming from the mapping against in the time profile. So you have to have minus of this and give the actual output. So input can be these drop downs as well, plus your on call drop downs as well, right? Now let's get started with the valuation. As I said yesterday, in order to create any kind of a object or a master data, you can just click on here and then add it instead of going to the next page in the managed data. That will create a confusion. So if you create it right away here, you know that what valuation has to be assigned it here. So when I click on the time valuation, you will have a separate object altogether where you have to provide an input. Now, looking at this, we might feel that it's too overwhelming, but it's very simple and easy. So how to read this is, so here, this is an input, which is you're giving the raw data to the system, and this is where you define the conditions. Valuation type is where you define the conditions, whether what you wanted to deduct it, whether you wanted to split it, whether you wanted to make split, deduct. You have various valuations, and these are the standard drop downs here right now. You cannot add anything or you cannot delete anything. Based on your requirement, you can actually select the valuation type, and I'm going to explain you each and every valuation type with the usage of it into the system so that we will understand. So these are the set of conditions which you can define, and you can capture the output here. Now, quickly understanding what is a time type group here. So time type group is nothing but you're grouping the system, you're grouping the data all together. Like let's say when you don't group it, you do not have, if you look at this drop down, you do not have a direct option to select something which will automatically give me this data, right? So this data or recorded working time data. System will ask you to create a time type group which will actually pull the data from these many things. So like a planned working time from the work schedule, from the holidays, from the recorded working time drop downs. So in order to create those grouping, it's something called as a time type group, and you can create it and assign it. And when you create the data, you have something called as a time type group below and time type group above. Now how this works is, this is actually an output. So output as in, for example, if we look at this section, this is the output, right? So that data is captured here. And how this is captured here is, just understand time type group below, time type group above concept. When I'm taking this example here, okay, 9 minus 1 equal to 8, right? So ideally, this goes under the input. That means this goes under the input value. So we're bringing the time type group which calculates 9 hours. In the evaluation type, we're choosing certain kind of an evaluation which will deduct 1 hour. Okay. And now see, what is the time type group below and time type group above? How the system takes us. Let's say time type group below, time type group above. Now, this is a thumb rule, guys. So definitely make sure that you understand it properly. So let's say I have defined this, right? And this is called as a threshold. Okay. The condition that we define is called as a threshold. So the time type group below, data can be captured anything that is falling within the limit. So if you look at this, the condition here is 1 hour. That means the time type group below will have the output of 1 hour here. And remaining hours, which is outside of the threshold, which is like after second hour, from up to the remaining hours, it will capture under time type group above. So it automatically says system is starting to split the hours accordingly. So the minimum hours are falling into this, which is falling within the threshold, and maximum hours after the threshold that is coming is falling into the time type group above. Now this is actually the output. Now let's say we do not, in our case, we do not need this 1 hour. We are not capturing it or we're not further using it. You can keep it blank if you don't want it. So let's quickly get started with it. I I hope you'll understand the moment we'll start working on it. Let's say this is planned working time. So external name you can give anything. I would suggest to keep it uh, initial stages. Try to keep it very simple and understandable, so that after certain point of time when you're going back and looking at the system, it shouldn't be something new for you. So it's a planned working time without breaks, and giving an external code, planned working time without breaks, L2. Now let's create an input here. So what is the input here is, so first input is this input, which should come from my work schedule. And how do we create this? We create a time type group like this. For example, planned working time from work schedule. Work schedule. Now the valuation result, it's basically applicable only for the overtimes. Since it's not an overtime right now, we're doing the basic. We do not need to have this valuation result here or a valuation factor. So let's say, for example, if it's an overtime, if you're calculating the overtime, so in that case, let's say if you're getting normally normal pay of $100, if you're exceeding that to 1 hour or 2 hour for a day, the overtime, you need to get an extra premium, right? So in that case, you will definitely have to select it. Since here we are not doing the overtime, it's a simple thing. So I'm not selecting any valuation result category, but it's not applicable for the planned working time, right? So now if you choose this, the time category, here is where you can have the various options which will automatically derive the data from. Like for example, if it's a record, if it's normally a working time, you can define the time types, like this we will see further in the next evaluation. So if I'm choosing working time, I can define what type of attendance types are needed to derive the data from. If you're using only overtime, you can give an overtime here and choose recorded working time. If you wanted to show the absences on the UI also, that you can choose paid absences. If there is any unpaid absence, you wanted to raise a flag to payroll, you can choose this category as well. So basically, based on the requirement, you can choose the category so that system will automatically derive the data from. Now for our case, generally we wanted a scheduled working time. So scheduled working time is a category which will bring the data from the work schedule that we have defined for this particular employee. So this 9 hours are generally brought by using the category called as a scheduled working time. Now in this case, time type and UI component, I'm not adding it. So if you say UI component, you can see the data which is coming. The output can be seen on the timesheet UI, on the UI here. So I don't want this to be, because it's not processed yet. We are already seeing this 40 hours, this 8 hours already on the system. So we don't want it to show it on the UI. So this is not applicable at all. Time pay type is generally applicable only for the outputs, actual outputs. Like for example, in our case, major thing what are we evaluating is the overtime and the premium hours which are worked on Saturday or a Sunday or a public holiday, right? So those are the actual overtimes which you wanted to raise a flag to payroll so that payroll understands. So when you say yes here, it will go as a flag to payroll saying that certain data needs to be paid out as a payroll. I mean, which is actually given in a compensation. So that way. So we are not required here. I'm just giving the data saying that time derived from work schedule. Okay, I hope this makes clear. Now just save this. We were able to arrive at 9. Okay. Reverse sign, we keep it as no. If you say no, that means it goes as an plus, as an addition to the time valuation. If you say no, it will deduct the from the valuation that we are not needed. So I'm keeping this as 1 here. Now, what is the valuation type that we normally use here is basically we deduct it, right? So we wanted to deduct the this particular section, 1 hour minus 1 hour, right? So we have a evaluation type called as a deduct group from input groups. The moment you create this, you will see another field which is called as a deduction group. That means this is the input group. It is deducting a group from the input group. This is the input group. You have to define one other one, which system should understand that they have to minus off this value from this value. Now, what is the value here is, if you look at this one, it should be 1 hour. And what is the 1 hour technically? It's actually your breaks from the work schedule. Okay. Now the same thing again. You have to define another time type group. This is it. Scheduled unpaid breaks from work schedule. Okay. Valuation category and result remains 0 here. Time category you have to specifically mention something called as an so what is the time category that is chosen here is scheduled unpaid break. Okay. So schedule, when you say it is a schedule, that means system will automatically pick the data from the work schedule. And here the time component and UI component, we don't need it. Time derived from work schedule breaks. Let me take this as scheduled unpaid break. Okay. And just save this. So ideally we are done with the condition of break. You define a condition here. Right. Now, how the system will say is you have taken 9 here, taking an individual day, taking minus 1 here. This is minus 1. Now you have to define. Now, depending upon the requirement, if it was an overtime, splitting the overtime, like let's say I have recorded 10 hours as an overtime. Okay. And OT. Now you might come across a requirement where employers might say, or organization policy might say that the initial 2 hours should be redirected as an overtime and paid out in a base premium at a base rate, some percentage to the rate. Let's say, for example, if an employee is earning $100 per day, he should get a $150 at the base rate for uh, the initial 2 hours. And remaining 8 hours he should be getting, or remaining 8 hours of OT should be paid at premium at, let's say, $200. Okay, 200. So in this case, we need both the output, because your 10 is the input here, and you're splitting the 2 into, uh, condition is 2. So the time type group below will have 2, above will have 8, right? In that case, we need both the outputs. But in this case, we don't need the first output, which is 1 hour. We only need the second output, which is above the threshold. So we define this, and what is the data that is coming out is planned working time without breaks. It's a actual data. This was a raw data. This is the actual data. Valuation result, nothing. I wanted the data has to be in. If it is coming out as an 8, it should always show me as an 8. It shouldn't replicate, or it shouldn't double, or it shouldn't be triple kind of requirement. Since it's an output, we always choose a category, whether it is anything, it is above or below. We normally choose the category as an calculated time. Okay. So time type, I'm keeping this as no and no, because we don't need this to be processed out. So it's a time, output of time derived after deducting breaks. Okay. Let me keep this as planned working time without breaks, L2. Just give it here, then just save it. So this way you're done with the first evaluation. Assign it to the valuation. This is not yet done. So we have only derived at this particular section now. Now we have to define this section. And how do we define it? It's again the same second evaluation. At this point of time, I'll just take a pause for 2 minutes. If anybody is not understanding what is the time type group or above, just let me know. Any questions, guys? I take that as no. Now, the second evaluation, what we need to come and derive here is we talk about the recorded working time. Now, this is little conceptually. Technically, it's the same thing, but only thing where we need a difference is um, we will have a various time type groups, because the time recording happens either through the drop downs from here, from your regular working hours, or from the on call time, or from the absences. Allowances are directly paid out from the payroll. You don't need as an input here. So it can be absences, and if it's a paid holidays, those are also considered as your normal paid working time. So let's say I have a public holiday for Diwali, right? So this Diwali is actually a paid holiday, and that has to be processed out in the payroll. So how the system will understand, or the payroll team will understand, is you have to raise a flag on the UI saying that Diwali was an holiday, and yes, it's a paid holiday, so it has to be paid out to the employees. Now, how the system will understand, until unless we don't provide the input, is through this particular input. Now let's get started with the initial one, which is your normal recorded hours. Let's create a grouping. Now let's start creating the grouping now. Let's say recorded working time. So valuation result and factor will remain 0. Since it's a working time, I'm keeping the category as a working time. And now, if it's a working time, you definitely have to define the time type. Like, what are the types that you're gonna have it? Okay, so time recorded through attendance types on UI. So it's a planned working, so it is recorded working time with breaks. Okay. Now, what are the drop downs that we have choose? We have to create or add all the drop downs that we are using for recording. So on call, will not come here because it has a separate category called as an on call time. So I'm not adding it here. These are the simple ones. Allowances don't need it as an input here because they will go out as a separate flag altogether. Now, when you add this, just save it. So this is the first recorded overtime, which we are grouping together. This is first, since this is an input and plus to the input to the raw to the time sheet, it will be plus only. Now we are done with this kind of section, right? So we are able to group this. Now next thing is we'll see about the overtime. So on call times, valuation and other categories remains 0. This is an on call time. I'll just save this. This do not need an input because automatically system will understand it's deriving from the on call time types. Add it here. This is a second set of input which is coming to the timesheet. Next one is about the holidays. So generally holidays, how the holidays are deriving, it's generally deriving from the work schedule of an holiday calendar of an employee. Now here, so let's say paid holidays, valuation category will remain 0. So why I'm keeping this 0 is, let's say paid holidays, we have 9 hours of holidays, right? So we wanted the same output. It shouldn't replicate it. If I say the valuation category as, let's say, base, and if I choose 1.5 or something, it will multiply it. So I don't want that to be happening because I wanted the data as it is in the system. And time category which we choose here is paid absences, right? So that can be created here. And this is a paid holidays, I'm sorry. There's a category called as unpaid holidays. And so this is another input. The next thing that we have is the absences. So absences can be two types. One is paid absence or non unpaid absence. Now, for the payroll, in order to understand it, you will have to raise a flag for the absences. And if it's an unpaid absence, definitely you can also raise that. Let's say specifically for the loss of pay. Like let's say if you're running out of the balance, which is not there, and you're applying for the loss of pay. If you wanted to raise that as a flag, you can create those of time categories as well using the unpaid absences. But I'm for this case I'm using paid absences right now. So let's say paid absences. Now how the system will understand that it's a paid absence, you will have to derive the data to it. So I'll choose a category called as unpaid absence. Now on this case I wanted to raise this flag as UI. component as yes, and the time type should also be given as in yes, because it has to be paid out, right? Normally, I have to do the same thing for the paid holidays also. So now, if you use paid absences, definitely you will have to define what kind of time type is a paid absences. So system will not understand directly, because on the this is what we have attached in the time profile. If you remember the previous session, we have this absence added to the time profile. That's the reason why I'm using this. So the system will not understand when you create the time off. You don't raise a flag whether it is a paid absence or unpaid absence, right? So in the timesheet, definitely you have to categorize that. So like your annual leave, vacation leave, bereavement leaves, your maternity leave, paternity leaves, those are considered as your paid absences. So the paid absences should be raised as a flag for the payment in the payroll. That's the reason why we are making it as an categorized here, and make the payment type as yes, UI component as yes. So when you raise this as yes, when it goes to the yesterday when we saw the managers page, at the valuation result it showed payroll, right? So that payroll is taken as a flag from this particular flag. So if you set this yes, the payroll, in the payroll it will come out as an yes flag, so that it is processed out for the payment. Just saving this paid absence. L2. Okay. So put one here. Okay. Now this is recorded working time without X. Now similarly, recorded working times without break. Now you have to define the category here, valuation type. Similarly, the previous one, it should minus off the hours which are being recorded here. If you see this, these hours are getting recorded here, right? So we have to define to the system saying that you have to deduct these hours, the break hours. And how do we do it? It's the same thing again, the whatever we have configured in the previous time valuation. Same way, but here the category would be little different. The time category would be little different. Like for example, recorded breaks. This will remain 0. The time category you choose here is unpaid break. If it is a scheduled unpaid break, then it derives from the work schedule. If it's an unpaid break, then you have to define the category that you're using here. So the time attendance type which you have created as a break, that has to be given as an input here. Okay, this is an input. Now these flags will remain 0. Let's say recorded break. Now this part of section is done, right? Now I wanted the above part only. The threshold I don't need it. I wanted the output as the plain. So what is the output is the recorded working time after deducting breaks, right? So recorded working time without breaks. So I wanted the raw data, whatever it is there, it has to be come out. Since it's a time type group above or below, you always choose a category called as uncalculated time. I don't want to raise it because this is not the actual output. I still wanted to process it further. So, order working time Just assign it only to the output of above because I don't need the output from below. Just save this. This is the second evaluation. Right now, you have added this. So far, after so much configuration, we only did this one. So we were able to give the input to the system. We were able to give input to this system. Now, still you don't see the overtime calculated. Now, how do we calculate it? Is you have to minus this and this. And how do we derive this? This is nothing but on the system. This is the actual output which is coming through this one, and you have to minus off this one. Okay, you in the third evaluation you're using the valuation output valuation of 1 and 2. I've duplicated it just to make sure you understand it. So yes, here it's actually called as total overtime. Right now the valuation category still remains. So what is the input here is what how we will derive the overtime is when your recorded working time is exceeding your planned working time, right? So the input would be your recorded working time without breaks. So where is that is from the second evaluation output, which is this one. Give the input since it's an adding, just keep it as no. And what is the valuation type here is again you can choose deduct in deduct a group from input groups. And then what is the output here is output of first evaluation. Technically this way, but looking at it, it is actually 10 minus 8. Okay. Now here we definitely need to have it captured the overtime since it is falling within the limit. If it's falling outside the limit, like for example, now what is the data that we need to capture is let's say 10 minus 8 we have given as an input, right? So we don't need this data. It's a planned working time. So we are not using time type group below to capture. We are using only time type group above, which is falling outside of 8. So I will define only one time type group above. And this is something called as a total overtime. This is a calculated time. I don't want to raise this as an time type because I want to process it further. Keep this yes. This is total overtime L2. The same kernel code. Just save it. So once you're done, now just assign this valuation. Now when you add the time valuation, just let's see. So this was not there initially, right? Now what is the summary it says is it started evaluating. So that's what it is. Okay, now when we go back, so this is a paid holiday, right? Now let's add another value here. Second, I think I forgot one thing to do. Paid holidays, we have kept it as no, right? So I wanted to raise this as yes. And if you say UI component, because it is not available here, it's not able to see the holidays here. Let's say when you say that yes, it's an interactive and a quick responsive UI. So it says there's a paid holiday in this particular week, which is 9 hours. So understood, right? So basically that is what a UI component means. And when it goes to the payroll, it's calculated as a valuation result called as a payroll. So that the team, whoever is processing the payroll, they will understand against the paid holidays or 9 hours, it will raise a flag saying that it's a payroll. It has to be processed as a payment to the employee. That's how it is bifurcated. Just going back to the today's week. Any questions here? Let's say I am planning for my leave. Let's say I wanted to see that in the system on 28. I'm doing a full day leave. Have you seen this? It's an holiday. Sorry, it's a leave here, and the leave that is coming here is an absences. So it shows the paid absences which is coming into the system as an 8 hour. Right, so basically this is what the system calculates and creates. So wanted to see how the valuation result happens is you can see the valuation trace here. If you don't understand how the data is getting derived, you can see that derived here. So what is evaluated time? So it will show you on Monday it was recorded working hours was 11, and out of which your scheduled working time was 9, your paid breaks was 15:45, and it will show you all these changes here. It will each and every value is shown here. On Friday it shows it's an holiday, it's an absence which is recorded. This is valuated time records. It will show you the summary of groups, nothing but the one which we have created, right? These groups, time type groups, you can read easily here. So there is no on call time recorded yet. There's a recorded working time which is calculated, which is 18 hours. So how that is coming is from Monday it is 10 hours and Friday it is 8 hours. Right? You can further look into it. What are those hours? This is your recorded working time without breaks, right? But it's a planned working time which is deriving from the work schedule is 45 hours. So the paid holidays, there are no holidays yet on the system. There's a paid absence which is recorded, and it shows what time type, and it will show you when was the holiday and why it is coming as 8. It will show you that, so you can expand it and see it. So these are the recorded breaks. Normally what are the categories which has been defined as on Monday only it is recorded as 1 hour. Similarly the recorded working time, so it will show you it's 11 here, and it's including your break hours. So and it will show you what type of when you have recorded it. Your unpaid breaks, your planned working time without breaks that can be calculated after deducting the breaks, and your total overtime. So if you see this, it will show you result as 3, and it will show you what all results it will. On Monday it is 2 hours. I think 1 hour is coming from the holiday. so that we can deduct it. We can process it further. So normally we don't want it to calculate that as an overtime. So what we can do is keep this as yes. Absences. I think, sorry, which so I'll look into that one. I think 1 extra hours is overtime is coming out from the paid absences. I'll look into that. So basically, this is how the valuation results starts categorizing into it the moment you define the time valuation to it. Any questions so far? So with that, I'll stop a session today for here. You guys can practice it at the initial stage. So tomorrow we will start bifurcating this overtime, the recorded overtime, right? The 3 hours. We will further bifurcate it. Like for example, our scenario would be like this. Let's say in a week, if I have recorded 10 hours, I wanted the first 4 hours of overtime. Talking about overtime, total overtime. First overtime should be redirecting it to that flexi time where I can compensate for negative hours. So I'll say this as negative hours. Then out of four hours, fifth and sixth hour, which is actually the next remaining out of remaining the next 2 hours, right? Fifth and sixth hour should be given as an overtime at base rate, and remaining the next, let's say after this we have 4 additional, right? From seventh hour I need OT to be paid out as premium hours. Further to this I wanted to go into the payroll. This I wanted to go to the time off, and this I wanted to go into the flexi time. So this is what we will cover in the tomorrow session. With that, I'll stop the session here right away. Any questions? You guys have any questions on anything?
This is Kashinath. So, do we have classes on Saturday and Sunday?
No, we don't normally have it. Saturday and Sunday is actually an off. Until unless you guys are comfortable, if you wanted a session to be completed soon, we normally take it. Otherwise, Sunday we don't take. Saturday it's up to you guys. If we have missed out any of the classes on any of the days, we couldn't make it, then we generally schedule it.
So, actually, I asked because you said that tomorrow, so we're discussing tomorrow class. So, it is
Okay.
on Monday?
Yeah, it's on Monday, the next working day.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Kashi. I think yesterday, for the previous sessions, I don't see. I mean, you have joined in. I hope you got the recordings.
Yes, yes. So from today, I will be joining regularly. Yeah.
Acha, acha. No, not a
So due
problem
to
at all.
some
Because
family emergency, I'm not able to join the classes. So from today onwards, I'm regularly joining the classes.
no worries, no worries. I'm just